three of them sitting around the campfire, and he just walked by and they all turned and looked at him. He said, I just waved and kept on walking. And he told that, now he tells it to be true, and why would he lie about that? You know? But I've heard so many stories like this. These old Indians tell about seeing them come off the clear cut.
Yep.
They'll come down the clear cut, and they'll come down and they'll hide in the trees out there by their house and listen to the kids play in the yard.
Yep.
They're drawn to kids playing. I've just heard dozens and dozens and dozens of stories, you know. But they're smart. These things are smart. I have never, ever heard a story where they were trying to hurt people from any of these folks, except the one where Denny's dad started shooting at him with a shotgun. This one kept coming up to the house and watching the kids play basketball in the backyard. And it pissed Dad off, so Dad grabs his 12-gauge shotgun and goes to shooting at him. And that night, this Bigfoot come back, or several of them come back, and they pelted their house with big rocks. Like, we're talking, size of cantaloupes and bigger. And they pelted that house all night long. They're moving out the next morning. They're loading the truck and they're leaving, and they never went back. Then he said they literally run them off their place because his dad shot at them. So when I moved in 2 miles down the road from Denny said, whatever do, you SOB, don't you dare shoot at those, my Bigfoot. He calls them my Bigfoot. You know? But anyway, yeah, I think they're smart. They figure things out. They reason. Animals don't reason. These are people.
I begged you, don't shoot at them, please. I know 3 people, now 4, that have shot at them. Some of these Bigfoot are like a deer, in a way. You shoot the deer next to them, and they don't appreciate that, but they don't come and try and gore you. But there are Bigfoot, because they're part human, I think.
I think they are.
Human nose, human mouth, walk like a human, talk like a human, different language.
Yeah, I've heard them a couple of times. Talking.
Yeah.
To each other, back and forth, a conversation. You know.
You might excuse me. I'll use a Bible verse. The sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives, and they procreated some giants. Whether they're Bigfoot, I have no clue. Whether that's true, I wasn't there. Just scripture. I'll give you a whole bundle. Next story. Come on, don't be afraid. You want me to tell one?
I got
About that book?
one.
Okay, you got
Just
one.
like
You got
real
one.
quick.
Hey, let her tell it. She didn't tell one.
I told my personal story already, which you guys didn't hear, but I was camping and I had vocalizations, like talking and growling and rumbling, and then we had coyotes run through our campsite, so that was my personal story. But this one was actually, before I had my story, I've had 2 retired sled dogs in my life, and the first one I only had her for a few months. I was learning, she was in a pack where they didn't do human interaction. They were work dogs. So I had to work with her a lot, and unfortunately I made a bad move. This was like a learning lesson, and I went to grab her because I realized she had walked outside with me, and I wasn't. This is a long story. We don't need to get into that part, but more or less, I chased her for like 8 months, and part of it is I hired a search and rescue team to come and help me. I felt responsible. This dog was like 6 years old. I had taken it in from these other people, so I really and I did catch her, and she was smart enough. She literally learned how to shimmy the door open on the trap. So the story, though, is the search and rescue team that came out. It was actually just one guy. And I think he felt real bad for me because we figured it out. She was doing this circle, and that helped me track her afterwards. But he's like, I'm not going to catch her. I can't do anything for you. So he's like, to make it a little worth your time, because I spent some money, to have him come out. He traditionally worked to find lost children. So he didn't go find lost dogs, kind of a thing. So he's like, I'm going to tell you this story. He's like, you want to hear a Bigfoot story? I'm like, okay. I've always been into the paranormal. So I was like, yes, please. So the story is that this 3-year-old boy got lost in the Mount Hood wilderness. And if you guys are familiar, this is deep, deep wilderness. This is, and there's the whole stretch of the Cascades. You can get lost. People get lost all the time out there.
10 feet off the trail.
Yeah. And it changes every winter anyway. So he was saying that they're helicopter searching for this kid. And lo and behold, they get to this spot and they can see this really large creature. They could actually tell because of the glint of the sun that it was hairy and that it was very tall. And with it, they thought they could make out this boy. And more or less they tracked where this creature was walking and where it went. And they ended up rescuing this little boy. And I think he was, a little over 3. He was closer to 4. So he was actually able to, there's another story, kind of random but alien related, that, like a 3-year-old boy got missing, tells the story. But anyway, this kid's like, yeah, this big hairy man came and took me to the water and got me water and took me to the bushes and gave me berries and made sure I was safe. And lo and behold, when they found him, they were actually able to find the tracks of the Bigfoot walking with the little kid's tracks. So, and that's from an actual search and rescue guy,
Thank you. Many lost children have been led back to their camp. This is not my story. You can find it on the internet. Two little girls were playing on the rocks. Parents were fishing or back at camp. A rock slide, big rocks. Bigfoot stands up to look at these kids, and the older girl turns and sees him and turns and runs back to camp. Accidentally knocks her little sister down. Her little sister hits her head, and the big sister does not stop until she gets back to camp. Of course, Mom and Dad, they're all going looking for her. Can't find her. They're petrified. They're terrible. But after a long, hard search, they go back to camp, hoping to see her there. They find this little girl on her own bed, sleeping bag. Great big gash in her head, cleaned up, pretty much asleep. How did you get here? The big bear brought me home. Little teeny girl. Other stories, just type in Bigfoot saves. There's one incredible, a female Bigfoot in a microburst. The lady ended up in the stream, and her 2 girls are in the car. She's able to get the one in front out, and is trying to get the one in back out of the car seat, and a hand reaches in and grabs her by the leg and pulls her out of the window. And she's screaming, my baby, and jumps back into the water and is trying to climb up through the water and get into the car to get her baby. And the Bigfoot actually jumps on top of the car, Bigfoot female, and reaches in. I don't know if it had to break the window, but folds this baby up and is holding the baby upside down in a little bundle of, and looking at it, and the baby is drowned. And this mother Bigfoot, with one finger, if that's a true story, that is absolutely incredible. But according to the guy, he wanted it recorded, and he sent it to somebody, I forget who, I apologize. But that daughter is now in one of the big zoos back in charge of the primate center. Okay. Anyway, lots of stories. I want to hear your story.
You figured out it wasn't a big bear, huh?
Okay. If you're through UFO stories or Bigfoot, we'll go to UFO or something else. Ready? All right. Who's got a UFO story? I know that 1 out of every 4 of you have a story, a UFO story. And at fireworks in Vernal, Utah last week, it was 1 out of every 2 people that I talked to. But I have to get people alone usually. It's hard to talk in a big
like this.
Okay, raise your hand if you've seen a UFO. One, I want to count. Keep them up. 1, 2, 3.